everyone, this is Mindy Eggen for Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine, and in today's video we are going to be doing some ink blending and taking a look at the various ink blending tools on the market today. The first product we're going to take a look at are paper pouncers from Picket Fence Studios and the Indian Summer Stencil. I'll be using this for a background on most of my card projects, so I thought I would start with that. There are also a variety of ways to use your stencils, and the first way I'm going to show you is using a paper inking palette. This is from Picket Fence Studio. It has kind of the consistency of your clear stamps, which means it's going to hold my cardstock and my stencil in place. I started out by taking a piece of turquoise sea cardstock that is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, placed it on my paper inking palette, then place the Indian Summer Stencil over the top, and that paper inking palette is going to grip my stencil so it doesn't move. Now I'm going to bring in my paper pouncers. So these are available in a variety of colors that can match your inks. I'm starting out with this turquoise one since I plan on using turquoise ink to apply my color. Paper pouncers have this nice handle on the top, and the white part is very much like a marshmallow is what it reminds me of. It's very squishy, it holds ink very well, and all you need to do is pounce to pick up your ink and then pounce your color through your stencil. This is very helpful when you have really intricate stencils such as this Indian Summer Stencil. You don't have to worry about any bristles because these don't have any bristles, so you don't have to worry about bristles moving or shifting your stencil. I'm going to peel off the stencil. I will clean that off on the side, and I'm just going to pick up my cardstock from that paper inking palette and set that off on the side as well. Another great thing about the paper pouncers is that you can also blend multiple colors. So here I have just a white piece of cardstock, and I have two colors picked out. These are Sunflower and Aqua Sky from Concord and Ninth, and they have pint-size paper pouncers available too. I find these very handy when I want to blend multiple colors on the front of my card. These are exactly the same thing as the larger pouncers, just in a smaller size. So they are available in multiple colors, so you can have a color for each of your inks. And they also have that bottom there that you can set your pouncer down when you're not using it, and you don't have to worry about ink transferring to your work surface. Here I'm just gently picking up the ink and I'm pouncing that through my stencil. I'm kind of working in the center, and then I'm going to come in with that Aqua Sky towards the top, work my way down into the yellow so that I can create kind of that transition color. It's going to be just a shade of green. If you don't want to have green, just don't go as far into the yellow. You may get some ink transfer onto your paper pouncer, and I just dab that on a paper towel off on the side. Once I'm happy with my blend, I can peel that stencil up once again. I will clean it off screen, and now I have a beautifully blended background. Another card panel that I want to create for a future card that I'll be showing here in the video is doing the tone on tone look. So I did this previously with turquoise sea ink and turquoise sea cardstock, and this time I'm doing it with faded brick. This is really great when you want to add just some subtle interest to a background without it taking over your main focal point. So you can go as light-handed or as heavy-handed as you want. And to remove my stencil and cardstock, I like to use either a pick and stick tool or my tweezers to help peel that up. A great feature that I find these paper pouncers are very helpful for is by applying pigment ink or even like an embossing ink or Versamark ink. So if you were to try and use pigment ink with a blending brush, it gets your bristles really thick and it doesn't really give you that blending or that nice smooth blending feel that you normally would with your blending brushes. With using the paper pouncers, you can just pick up your ink and add that through your stencil onto your cardstock. Again, you can do this with embossing, which I find very helpful. How vibrant your background is really going to depend on how much pressure you're applying and also how much ink you're applying. Next, we're going to take a look at the small and mini ink blending tools from Altenew. I picked out this gorgeous arrangement from the Treasured Memories set. This one I already went ahead and stamped the image onto white cardstock, and I like to stamp in a light gray ink to start out with. This set has a coordinating stencil that is going to build up the bouquet. Altenew has a variety of different sizes when it comes to their blending brushes. This first one that I'm using is the small blending brush, and it is really great when you have images about this size. The larger blending brushes that they have are really great for creating backgrounds, but when you want to color in an image, The small ones are a really great go-to. And then they have their mini detail brushes. So the mini detail brushes are kind of like a crayon, a little bit thicker than a crayon, but it's about that size. And the bristles are nice and compact, so you don't have your bristles kind of spreading out further than you would really like. You can really hone in on the area that you want that shade of ink to be. Now, my work surface today for this particular card is using the 9 by 12 sticky mat from Altenew. This is a larger size, different than what comes in the stamp wheel. It has similar features as in the paper inking palette, where it is sticky. It kind of has that material of like your clear stamp sets. It holds your cardstock down and it holds your stencil when you place it down over the top. So all I need to do is just line up my coordinating stencil area to the image, and then I can just pick it up and move it around to the detail areas. Now with the Altenew inks, they do have their inks in a 4-color family, and I really like to stick to the color family. It just makes picking colors very easy, and I kind of work through from lightest to darkest. You can see on my red flower up there that I went into the darkest color to really add in the details and give the flower some nice contrast. I do like to keep a swatch book handy that shows me all the different shades of ink, so that way I can kind of pick and choose what I want my bouquet to be. In this case, I wanted some really pretty fall colors, so that is what I had picked out. Now, as I moved down to this next flower, I started out with a light yellow using the mini blending brush, or I'm sorry, the small blending brush. And then I can move into adding detail and different shades to the center of the flower with the mini blending brush. I find these tools to be very helpful if I have single layer stencils. So if a stencil doesn't have 3 different layers to add detail to one flower, when you start bringing in a mini detail brush, that is where you can really step up your image to add the different highlights, the different dark areas, kind of like if you were going to be coloring with any type of markers. That is how I translate the blending brushes, is I can add all of this detail and shading to my image. This really comes in handy when you start working on the leaves. A lot of time leaves don't have additional stencils, or they don't have a lot of stencils to add the detailing. So I'm able to do that with those small blending brushes and the detail brushes, really hone in on the area closest to the flower to add that darker color. And you can see as I work my way through these different fall colors for this bouquet, it really builds up the image and just brings it to life. So now that my image is completely done, I brought it back over to my stamp wheel, which is where I originally stamped it, and I placed it down in the corner. And now I'm inking up my image once again, but I'm using the obsidian ink from Altenew, and I'm going to stamp that over the top. This is my personal preference on how I like to stamp and ink blend my images, but it brings back all of that detail and just really make the image pop off the front of your card. Next, we're going to take a look at some blending brushes from Gina K Designs. For this one, I am using the Summer Bouquet stencil. And with this particular stencil, there is only one layer to each image. So this is where it comes in very handy where you to add multiple colors and shading to build up that picture. And if you don't have a sticky mat, there is another great way that you can add your stencil over the top of your cardstock. I like to start by putting some repositionable tape behind the cardstock, and that just temporarily secures it to the work surface. And then I'm going to take the first layer of the stencil, place it over the top, and I'm always going to have it lined up in a specific corner in case I trimmed my paper incorrectly. So in this case, I believe I went with the bottom right-hand corner. So that's where I will always place my stencil. And then I just secured that down with some washi tape. You can use Post-it tape or any other type of low-tack tape. If you have a magnetic surface, you can use your magnets to hold your stencil down. For this first image, I am using colors that are very similar to my Altenew project. I started out with kind of this warm yellow, blending over the entire area with a regular sized blending brush. Now I'm coming in with the detail blending brushes. These are very similar to the mini brushes from Altenew, but they're actually a little bit smaller. Again, the bristles are nice and tight so that you can really get into those areas and focus on where you want the shading to be. You can see where I had added that darker shade of yellow towards the bottom of each flower to really create some contrast and shadow areas to my flower. I moved on to the greens and I'm blending kind of a lighter shade of green first with the regular size blending brush. And then I'm coming in with the detail blending brush and I'm just going to kind of randomly or sporadically go around my leaves to add that darker shade of green. Now, some of these leaves are pretty close together, but when I look at it, as long as it has kind of a lighter side to it and a darker side, I don't think it really matters where you place the shadow. It's just going to really help give these leaves some dimension other than being 2D. It's going to almost make it look 3D. Next, I'm moving on to bringing in this fall red color. So again, I lined up my stencil, kind of always starting in that bottom right-hand corner. But with these stencils, you do have a little bit of creative play with it. So as long as you line it up in the general area, it's going to look beautiful. It doesn't have to be completely lined up perfect because you can see that the flowers are not touching the stem. So I started out kind of with that lighter shade of red first over these areas. I did mask off some detailed areas of the stencil because I want to put a different color there. So I just used some Post-it tape for that. And then I brought in a darker shade of red towards the bottom of each of those flowers to give it that contrast. I wiped away a little bit of that excess ink. I'm going to peel back that Post-it tape. And now coming in with that detail blending brush, I can add this teal color. So these detail brushes, these small mini blending brushes, come in super handy when you have these small areas on your stencil. And now here is the entire collection of everything that I created on screen. I did stamp out sentiments off of the Treasured Memories stamp set from Altenew, and I went off screen and put them all together for you. So first we can take a closer look at the Altenew card where I used that stencil in the background with the white pigment ink. I could have gone a little bit lighter handed so it didn't stand out as much, but again, that is just a matter of how much pressure you're applying. But I have that beautiful bouquet on top of an arch die cut piece. Keeping with the arches theme, I die cut out my blended panel from Gina K Designs out of an arch die, adding that over the top of the background where I did tone on tone using the paper pouncer and the Indian Summer stencil. And then my last card is where I have the two colors blended. So actually I have three colors in here because when the colors overlap, it creates that third color. I hope this video gives you a better understanding of the different blending brushes that are out there and how they are helpful and have their own unique purpose in the paper crafting world. Stenciling and ink blending is one of my absolute favorite things to do, so I do have personally multiples of these in my stash because I do find that they each just have their own purpose and they are so easy to use. Thank you all so much for spending time with me today.